Hello and welcome. Thank you for joining me on the Gift of Need podcast. I'm Jude DiMeglio Trang. I'm an author and observer of human need in society and the overlooked power that it has and how it shapes our human behavior, our relationships, and society as a whole. And I hope to whet your appetite to consider the variety of ways in which our needs are not burdens, but are actually opportunities and gifts. And I do that with amazing guests. And today, my guest is Robynne Jeisman, founder of Turntable Housing in the San Francisco Bay Area. We are going to be talking about young people and the many areas of crises they find themselves in and what is being done to help change their lives. So, hi, Robynne.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm good. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
Well, all right. John and I met Robynne, who is from Australia, our second home, in Tucson, Arizona, of all places. It is a small world. We were really intrigued when we heard about her work in San Francisco and her heart for helping young people in dangerous and really desperate need. Robynne, why don't you start by telling us a little bit about your background that set the stage for your starting Turntable Housing in San Francisco?
Well, yes, I am here and I've been doing this work across the globe for 27 years, predominantly in the Bay Area in San Francisco and then Adelaide and Melbourne, Australia, with a little bit of involvement in India, Thailand, and that just really has been a growing development. I would identify as someone who has a story that is connected to those same stories that the young people we serve. I didn't really realize that when I was their age, and I think the language in the community now is a lot more broad. However, the work began by me saying yes. The work began for me working in the deep south in South Australia and working in a high school. And some people would say, well, what's the connection between working in a high school and doing work in San Francisco now? And that part is the call of God, saying yes to the next thing and the next thing. But ultimately, when I look back, young people were experiencing domestic violence. Young people were experiencing at risk of homelessness. If I think about it, even by the time I got to Melbourne, some of our young people in foster care, they were at risk of sexual exploitation and trafficking. We didn't have that language back then, but we still knew the things were not right. Okay.
Right.
And not all of those things that I've experienced, that I've described, are not my personal experience. But there's contributing factors of what I call push and pull factors. And that's a whole nother podcast.
Okay.
But to spotlight some of those things is whether that's unemployment, unexpected death in the family, mental health issues, broken community. Then people would say, well, how does that contribute? And that's the attempt to join those dots. And I think about the beautiful background that you are sitting in front of. And I talk about tapestry, and it's the tapestry, like all those threads. If you zoomed right into that fabric, there's threads to make that happen. And one of those threads is representative of your story, Jude. And one of those threads is representative of mine. And you think about, oh, that's a lot of threads. Well, there's a lot of people in the world. When you help one person, you are often helping 4 or 5 other people, whether it's in their workplace or you help me, that helps me to help a lot of other people in the community. So how I got started was, I have a heart for compassion. I've always been that way. When I was a little girl, I wanted to send 3 planes over to Africa, and one was going to have food, one was going to have water, and one was going to have clothes. And that was my little kid strategy to help the people in need. And I'd caught that at the time. And then, even as a teenager, I don't even know if Home and Away is still on Australian TV, but it's a show that was in the 80s and the 90s and the 2000s. It probably still is going, but back in the day, there was a mama bear called Pippa, and Pippa was a foster mum. And these are those moments where I'm like, that is a real live example in my living room on television. Now, my heart was caught as a teenager watching that. That's not really what Home and Away is typically known for. But, but it's, it's soap opera and drama. But for me, it started there of like, these are examples. And I have friends and family in missionary life, and they were in Papua New Guinea or Pakistan and other parts of the world. And it's a reference point at that beginning. But I know for me, that's part of my tapestry that I was like born into, and everything from Channel 7 in Australia to missionaries and everything else. But I describe it in such a way because we are all part of that tapestry, and those everyday experiences for some people, if their sense of self is worn down enough, it can end in deep, deep, deep need.
Yep.
So I've probably set the stage for our conversation today. But it was by me saying yes to working in a high school and helping young people. Then it grew to moving to another state and dealing with juvenile justice, homelessness, foster care, the models and the frameworks around that, outdoor education. And as it kept growing, I kept saying yes, because society changes as well. And then there's a personal call that had me say yes to moving to San Francisco, but it was integrated within what I was already doing. I didn't come to the Bay Area with a different charge at hand. It was building on that. And then you learn what is needed here. How does my backpack of skills and experience and tools contribute to what's needed here? And here I am today.
And there you are, at your heart. And that's like you said, this thing in your heart, those gifts that were given in our heart, they don't ever go away. They may change how they are expressed on the outside, but that passion is there. So folks, today we're going to be discussing this, young people who are impacted by juvenile justice, exploitation, trafficking, and ultimately homelessness. Robynne, what age people do you work with? And would you tell us where you encounter these young people that Turntable Housing serves, and how they find themselves in these circumstances? Just give us a little description about some of the kids.
Well, we typically focus on the 16 to 25-year-old age group. Okay. Sometimes I get phone calls for much young people as young as 11. And then I encounter other adults who are 26, 28, 35, in their 40s, all needing help as well. And some of on the older age are like, oh, I wish you were here for me when I was younger, or ask, where were you when I was younger? And I'm like, well, I was about the same age as you. But I'm finding I'm working with sometimes family units, but we still focus on that window of 16 to 25.
And so do kids just like show up outside your building or your house? How are you connecting to these children or young people or young adults in need?
It's a mix now, because people have asked me that same question since I arrived. Now it really does. I can have people crying out the front door. I'm literally like, pull in the parking lot, and it's like, I don't know what's waiting for me at the front door. That literally happens.
Wow.
And the word is getting out. Google searches, people are being a lot more tenacious on, I need help, which is good. Things are getting harder, and sometimes the desperation increases, but that's expanding our reach as well. We don't advertise. I don't really need to go to extra lengths to make our work known. That is mostly to do with capacity, that I can't keep up with the referrals and the request for services at this point. If I had more funding, a larger team, then maybe we would need to promote more. But at this point, we don't advertise, and it comes through word of mouth, friends and family of current people that we have helped or work with, networks in the community, from community-based organisations, churches, schools, government agencies. I'm told I'm the queen of networking, so I think my work getting the word out is definitely when the need comes to a person, they're like, oh, she's the housing lady, and I'm kind of known as the housing lady, which is great. And it's become apparent in San Francisco that a lot of people have come to realize that I'm the best contact person for the anti-trafficking solutions as well. And I think it's because I'm housing first. We need to remove the barriers to help a young person get safe housing. And it's not just there's the lease, sign on the dotted line, all the best. It's the wraparound services that we integrate, because you get your place, it doesn't come furnished. You get your place, your mental health issues may have an increased chance for healing because you've got your own place, but that takes time to work through that. And then the independent living skills as well. So often, to answer your third part of your question, often our young people are coming to us because they're hungry and they're homeless. They need that. We've seen that increase in this moment in time in the US. We're seeing people are hungry.
Yes.
Like physically hungry. And it seems like, no, it couldn't really be that bad. Well, it's real. It's tangible. And why I focus on the 16 to 25-year-old age group, that's my expertise, that's my passion. And I believe that if we equip someone in the earliest stages of life, we are setting them up for success. Our young people want to contribute to society. They want to live their purpose. They want to not have to fight through all of this trauma and troubles that come their way. Some of it is systemic abuse. Some of it is generational cycles that I just haven't seen broken. Sometimes it hasn't even been named or identified. Even to name something is helpful for our young people to see that there is another way to do things.
Yes, I think you're right about that. I think that it's like speaking. It's speaking what's true, and it gives, I think, people something to hang on to while they're trying to figure out, especially when you're young. I mean, this all seems logical to us, but a 16-year-old brain is not logical, and especially if they've been traumatized, right?
Yes, and in brain development, the impact of trauma is significant. So a healthy brain still hasn't fully formed until 26 years of age. If there's trauma on top of that, if there is drug use, those components are layered up and up and up. I call it the trauma tiramisu.
Right.
You think about that delicious Italian dessert, but the layers of that cake. And we can or layers of an onion, we can peel back those layers. But it takes time and it's painful. And often with brain development, we have to retrain the brain. And if you think of like a big river, that's a neuro pathway. And to retrain that water flow to go a different way, you have to like sort of almost carve it out a little bit. And then, no, we don't want the rushing river over here. We've got to like train it around. And that takes time.
Yep.
I need those pictures in my life to remember why I'm doing what I'm doing, because it presents, the challenge presents as manipulation or oppositional behaviors or those kinds of what's seen as negative. But that's that young person's brain trying to make sense of what's going on. It could look like withdrawal and isolation, So we are seeing the behaviors, but I'm trying to give word pictures to explain the why and the how in the background. So other reasons that young people present to us is around feeling unsafe, is domestic violence, abuse, actual individuals in the community having a suspicion of what trafficking might look like. Now, we talk about human trafficking is the overall umbrella, and then in that and under that is subcategories of sex trafficking, labor trafficking, drug trafficking. There could even be organ trafficking. And sometimes it could be one, or it's not always just one. It can be woven in. But just think about power imbalances. Think about the desire for relationship and belonging, and then manipulation within all of that. Like, it often starts what looks like fine on the surface. And then if it takes too much, it goes too deep. That's when we start to realize what's going on. So there are things that us professionals in the world, in this world, can help prevent and identify and kind of get ahead of. And one recent thing, Australia has just put a mandate that no one under 16 can have social media accounts, to my knowledge. And that is going to be interesting to create some data to see the positive impacts that will have on our community. And
I am so excited. Our granddaughters are in Australia, and I just see the dangers that our friends' kids here have had undergone. And what happens is that if the parent says you are not having this on your phone, then the parent's the bad guy, because they're all of society's against them, saying, "Oh, why not?" And so I think doing it as a community, what we love about Australia is that there is a mindset that we can make laws that protect us as a society that we agree upon. And so,
well, that parent teenage battle is the same thing. It's been there since teenagers were growing up.
That's right.
And it's probably not going to stop. The context is changing. So there was no social media battle with me and my parents when I was a teenager, because it didn't exist.
Right.
But, it's everyone's doing it. That's the gorgeous, let's talk positively, that's the gorgeous invitation that a teenager wants to accept, is everyone's doing it. But the wisdom of the elders will say, well, that doesn't mean, it's just because it's legal doesn't mean it's good for you, or those sorts of things, right? So back in the 90s, it was probably more about how many pairs of Air Maxes or how many pairs of Jordans did you wear. Maybe that's still the case, but it's everyone's doing it for the teenager, and it's the loving protection and guidance of a parent.
Right.
That's the battle going on. And that's the challenge for our young people when they don't have that parent or that loving, solid adult voice. It doesn't have to just be a parent. It could be a grandparent. It could be a basketball coach. That positive voice is essential, because teenagers are ready to go, well, everyone's doing it, so I'm going to be everywhere with everyone doing everything. And that doesn't always work out so well.
Yeah. And you have a lot of young people that come in from the juvenile justice and probation. Can you tell us some of the specific challenges the young people that you help are facing once they're in that system? Is that how do you navigate that with them?
It's challenging. Every city and county and state has a different law about things. And then I know that's the same in Australia. Different state to state has different laws as well. So that law, it can be the perspectives on sex work, the perspectives on prostitution laws. And the judgment around that. Then there's the grey area, which is the same actually in both countries, is that 16, 17-year-old age group where there's a law about free will and voice, but they're still a minor. And that it's the justice conversation is very challenging to speak to both America and Australia in the same conversation because they're literally different countries, right? And we've got different histories. There are some common threads as well. Overrepresentation of Black and brown individuals in the prison system that's probably one that would be common. From young people's perspective, there's no such thing as a child prostitute. That I will say that again and again. There is no such thing as a child prostitute. It doesn't matter what country. There's no such thing. The reason why, first of all, I don't really like the word prostitute. I feel like it's very labeling. But prostitution can be seen as legal or illegal, and there's different schools of thought around that around the globe on how to come at that as well. But a child, if they would be trafficked or exploited, but there's no prostitution. An adult may choose that, and there's lots of discussions around the word choice in that experience as well. And it has become controversial. And we have a lot of topics in the world that, we don't all see things the same way. And the best way I encourage people, if you want to know more and have more of an opinion on something, get to know somebody that is truly experiencing that topic. Have someone in your life that has experienced it or is experiencing it, and that's going to inform well.
So what you're saying, Robyn, let me see if I understand you. You're saying that the young people that you find that have been sex trafficked, in their mind, they don't see it as them being a child prostitute. Is that what you're saying? That their view is that, oh, it's not that, it's...
Well, there's two components. Why I was mentioning that is because it's a common phrase that is still used around the place. And it's the pairing of those two words and the fact that a child is subject and victim to power imbalances. And so there is no choice for a child to be involved in that. That is power, abuse, manipulation, all those types of things.
I see.
Right?
What you're saying is that it's not this category that says, well, they're a child prostitute as opposed to an adult prostitute.
Yes, correct.
What you're saying is that they weren't given any choice in this matter.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. So then you tapped on something really awesome as well, is around the insight or the perspective that a minor.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we talk about trafficking. That's moving the young person and them being sold or being forced to do things that if they really were given a choice, they wouldn't have. There's other dot points like sex for exchange. I need somewhere to live. Then there is I thought he was my boyfriend, or I thought she was my auntie. And I'm specifically highlighting the fact that men and women, all humans, can be part of what I call the food chain in that. We like to demonize specific individuals and think it's only one kind of person, skin color, gender, age, and all kinds of things. But I often refer to the movie Taken and Taken 2. They're very good examples. That movie is not for everybody to watch, but that is a good example of how hard and how bad it really can get. But that's not everyone that I'm dealing with, but it is a reference point to be mindful of. However, exploitation is part of the trajectory of possibilities. So prevention and response is important, and I am involved. I participate in all parts of the trajectory. My hope is no one gets to the point where they're being trafficked, but we meet a lot of people that have that experience.
Yeah.
There are other people with all the data, and then when I get to know their story, I start to realize the levels of risk where they are at low, medium, or high risk of trafficking, but they're currently within the exploitation end of the trajectory. So you were asking about juvenile justice involvement, and we've found ourselves landing back in the trafficking and exploitation topic as well. And as you can see, it's not a natural flow like a good thing, but there's so much intersection, and even it's interwoven. And so I'm often trying to pull back, and I'm thinking of all the different tabs that are open when I'm talking to a young person to figure out how to help them.
Right.
And so justice involvement is something that we experience where sometimes that's their history, or they're coming out of juvenile hall right now, or they're in the community but they've got a probation officer. And so we are looking at that part, and I wouldn't have thought there was any trafficking risks. Or sometimes that's why our vision and mission is very long, because it's all of the things. Some of our young people have a different combination, but it's usually one or a couple of the experiences. And then it can be a matter of time that some of the other experiences come their way. And that's because I get in the story. Getting in the story is so important. And it's not just in the forward story. We have to understand the past story to see why what's happening now is on repeat. And it's not going to change if we don't address some of those things. So we're
not going to be able to get off the treadmill. That's what you're saying.
We integrate therapy and life coaching and case management. All of those different disciplines focus on different parts. And I love our partner therapists that we have in our sphere, because they really help that protected time for that young person go deep into that stuff. And they have a mentor, and some are not ready for both. Some are more ready for a mentor than they are for a therapist, and that's good. They're engaging with story, and story is so important because there are no true stories around the world.
And alike, yep. You know, your mission statement, I want to read it for our guests. Turntable believes that everyone has the right to safe, secure, and affordable housing. This basic right to housing should be available to all young people, irrespective of their religious beliefs, ethnic background, health status, or personal values and history. So that is a lofty goal. And how do you go about accomplishing housing for these kids in a city like San Francisco with extremely high rents and home prices? I'm amazed that you can even accomplish a little bit of this mission.
Our beautiful, strong, courageous young adults work very hard. They work very hard practically with jobs and schooling, and they work very hard for their own personal success as well. Some of them are fighting very hard to break those cycles emotionally. But I watch them. They go to work. Some of them sometimes are so busy to catch up with me and have our one-on-ones because they're working so much. And I think that's a strength. And so I will support them where I can, where sometimes our one-on-one is in their lunch break and I drive to them so that they can get what they need done. Or we're very flexible in our times, but they make it work pretty well. So we have some landlords in the city, they're private owners of property that have partnered with us, and they love what we do and they want to help youth. But you don't know how to do the part that I know how to do. So we want to see more of that, and that is what's changing the game. We even were able to work with the San Francisco Housing Authority, and we achieved this very creative option for a young woman's Section 8 voucher to be approved within our 4-bedroom home. That is the first of its kind, and that really should be celebrated. And that is innovation, because the Housing Authority love our model. They identified the needs of this young woman, and she needed our advocacy and our wraparound model. So to just have one room signed off and her to get the options was great. Now I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I fight hard for this stuff. I push for it. But I don't want that young woman to just fulfill the status quo, and I'm really trying to privatize her story, keep her story private. But what was being offered was unacceptable for me. I'm like, nah, I can't do it. And she got offered some things that's very typical and common. She denied it, and she said, oh, Robynne's got something better for me. I'll wait, thank you. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is when you really start to pray. I'm like, she really believes this. And we pulled it off. It happened. Wow. And we learned so much in that process of what really can happen. And it's the hearts of people. You know, think about my heart all those years ago. It's the heart of this amazing woman and this men and women in the Housing Authority that were like, let's do this. Let's make this happen. And we are seeing the changes. This is for one person, but we are seeing the changes within that whole household, because all of these young people are tempted to be like, I want my own place. Everybody wants their own place. That's the other thing, Jude. And it's fair enough with their trauma. They just want to break from all of that.
Right.
However, it is relationships that changes lives.
Absolutely.
It's hard. It comes back to stories, and I have to knit it all together. So thankfully, all my hard work in the community, building trust, is helping then people in the community bring young people to me, or they know me themselves. And we had this gorgeous recipe of stories, and these young women are in the house and they wouldn't have come together on their own. And now they've got friendships that will last a lifetime, because our young people are starting to plan their next stage of housing, which makes room for the next young person. But I'm like, don't stop. Stay friends. Now you've got people that understand. The thing I wanted to highlight as well, Jude, is there's a lot of really great programs in the States that are very facility-like or facility-esque. Our housing program is a scattered housing model. So there's no one place to go we don't have 45 youth living in a building with an office down the bottom.
Right.
Our houses and apartments are exactly that. So they look the same as every other house that you drive down the street. So that offers dignity. I am working hard because I want every young person to have their own bedroom. I don't want bunk beds. The only time that means we have to work much harder. But from a therapeutic standpoint, young people may have nightmares. We live so in such small spaces in the Bay Area. I remember my first few years, I didn't have a car. So I'd be on the bus, on the train, and it's always, you got your earbuds, you just, everything is keep it in.
Yeah.
And sometimes we need to just let it out. And that's the reality that I want to offer that to our young people. And so even down to being able to have your own room, it's harder work. So we are finding more and more creative solutions with our young people for their housing, that it is a hard part. San Francisco is hard, but the whole Bay Area is that way as well. We want to expand. We want to believe it's possible. I have a dream for people to donate to a rent assistance fund so we can take the top end off of our young people's rent. We need, the community can help make this work. We really, really can participate. And time, talent, and treasure, we all have different measures of that. And some people just want to donate, and please do that. But other people have time. And that is, social isolation is the biggest contributor to most of these problems. And so therefore time is a precious commodity as well. And people could I have all these ideas, like people could propose to their employer, would you pay me to mentor a young person just 1 hour a week? And employers can be a solution to that.
Exactly.
And
Just a little.
startups, there could be,
Yeah.
we've got the infrastructure and the know-how from that part, but we just need the people. And everyone thinks it's so busy, but 1 hour a week can make a difference.
Wow. I mean, I just love this, and I love the way the trying to gather people around. And I wonder, is it a common thread in these young people's lives that they have had, at least in their past, a lack of purpose and fulfillment, kind of growing up in a almost not a vacuum, but in maybe so much space without a lot of family guidance or encouragement? And do you address, along with these incredible physical needs, the mentoring, helping to heal backgrounds and those kind of things, do you address spiritual needs that these young people may have? Is that a part of your program that you offer, or do you send them other places?
Both and. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. I am a firm believer that everyone's welcome at the table. And that's part of Turntable's vision as well, is not just a DJ with two stories and our lives are changed when our stories come together. But when we come to the table, we feast together, we break bread together, and no one comes to the dinner table and we have our backs to each other. We lean into each other. And it's everything from a coffee shop to a restaurant, or just being in the kitchen in a farmhouse, or whatever we do. When we turn into each other, it's a really beautiful thing. And I am a follower of Jesus. And I also, that's centered around the communion table. And as that term breaking bread comes from the Last Supper. It comes from breaking bread. And so for me, the table is a precursor and is an early community-based invitation. If you don't know Jesus, it's an invitation to what the greatest invitation of all is about. And so coming to the table for me is to help people to really understand that belonging and relationship is the first thing. And then our behavior changes. And then we really start to see higher level change happen internally, because it happens from the greatest conviction of all, is internal, when it switches on. And so I have always been open about my relationship with Jesus. I'm the same person. You see me at church, see me in the community, I'm the same. And that's what we need. Authenticity is absolutely imperative. I don't care who you are or what your worldview is. Be you. And so I have always been open about it, but I never want to force it on people. But I think invitation is important too. And I didn't want to withhold invitations from people and then they we hope we could come. It's very interesting. As you remain authentic, it's coming out. Your walk with the Lord, or my walk with the Lord, is coming out of me more than I would even realize, to be honest. And it's being open. And there's been some really great things that I remember in my time in Melbourne. We're making sure that we paid enough equal attention to all areas of a child's life. And that really is their identity, their community, their mental health, the legal elements, the finances, career development. Sometimes we can be very focused on, especially for kids in foster care, we can be so focused on their basic needs, their court proceedings, their education, and they got a job, and then good luck. Happy birthday, happy 18th, all the best. And then they would come back around 12 months later and be back homeless, kicked out of home because they weren't necessarily supported. And the family, now that's a whole systemic reality as well about things, but young people need to know their purpose through, why was I born? What? Even I've got some young people. Well, my mum had an abortion and I was born. Like she tried and it didn't work, and I'm still here. So there's a lot of spiritual and mental and emotional things to journey with somebody.
Yes.
And the trauma part with the I believe God's put eternity in our hearts. And so that's there's this question of who am I and what's my purpose? Why was I born? That question is there. And people ask it eventually.
Yes.
And you hear there's movies made out of that question. There's amazing messages at people's celebrations of life. And really, for me, the most important 2 days of your life was when you were born and the day you figured out why you were born.
Well, and
that is a beautiful place to witness. I am often witness to that aha moment in young people's lives, but it does not happen in a time. There's no like, oh, what's the average timeline? I couldn't tell you, because it depends on what was there or wasn't there. So I talk about the circle of courage, which is a part of our logo, is based off of the principles of the circle of courage, it's a Native American concept, which looks at mastery and generosity and belonging and independence. And it's very important to realize this is for all human beings. It's not just for children, but that's where I sharpen my focus. And we need to cultivate belonging and independence. We need a sense of we and a sense of me and who am I and what's my purpose. And then as those, they're usually the primary layers. And then the others that come is the mastery, being good at something, and the generosity, which is giving back. And when I meet a young person that is demonstrating generosity early in my work with them, that's a very good indicator. Some people who have long history of trauma, or a short history but deep trauma, it takes a while. And I remember this one girl where one day I picked her up from school and she says, "How was your day?" And that's a quick ping example of generosity. When someone can lift up their eyes and think outside of themselves, that's an indicator of healing as well. So all of this it could sound like a vague answer to spirituality, but our spirit needs to be woken up sometimes, and it takes a while for it to wake up when we're weighed down with so much trauma.
Right.
So
well, what I'm gathering, Robynne, as we bring this to a close, is that in your love for people that comes out of the love of God, what you're trying to do is to embrace these people and to reassure these young people that they are loved, that there's love beyond the people that have not loved them in their lives, and not just in the world, and not just in you and the therapists and the people, mentors that are helping, but that also there is a God who loves us. And so I think that, and they are free to choose. You are not trying to force them. This is an open door. And it's, I love that on your website that you describe that. And I think that it is, the love is what draws people, right?
And there's people that they have been loved by that still haven't helped them get their needs met. And there are people that is not love. That was not loving to do. I had a young person ask me, she became a Christian, and she said, could I please start a Bible study? So we do a Bible study now. But that was actually her idea. Now I'm running it, but I'm running it because I want to make her succeed in all that she's doing too. And so she leads it with me, and then I'll fill in to make sure. That started with 2 people, and now we've got 8 people. Some went to college and didn't want to miss out, so now we've got FaceTime phone calls within it. It's very energizing. And some people ask for Bibles and devotional books, so I produce that. But it's there. It's there for them. And if they want to come to church, they do. Sometimes they come and then stop. That's fine. we are an open opportunity for conversations around that and discovery. And I think if you want to know something more and you're willing to go on the journey with someone, you will find more answers in that too.
Well, thank you, Robynne. I just appreciate so much. It's so fascinating. I hope someday I can come and John and I can visit and see, your work and stuff. Taking the time to express and talk about how the needs of young people, the needs they have to be safe, to be fed and housed, can become opportunities and gifts as they search for help, right? And they connect with others who are willing and looking for people to meet those kind of needs. And it's a connecting, right? And of course, that brings joy and fulfillment to all of us. So thank you. Thank you.
No worries. It's been an absolute inspiration for me to just have the questions brought my way to think about the bird's eye view of what we do all day. It's not just me. There is a team and they work very hard for the success of young people across the Bay Area. And Lord willing, we may become other represented in other countries maybe one day, who knows? But for now, just keeping our hand to the grind and
congratulate them all, and may your work and your vision spread to other cities and other countries. So, folks, you can check out Robynne and her team's work by going to turntablehousing.com. It'll be in the show notes. And consider supporting her invaluable work in transforming the lives of these youth in crisis. Turntable Housing is a 501c3 organization. So those who want to help these kids find ways out of their plight can go to the website and make tax-deductible contributions. The great music you're hearing today was written and performed by Gabe Kubanda at Kubanda Music. You can find him on any streaming service. The engineer is Ray Engineering at 3rd Street Productions here in Tucson, Arizona. Please consider following, rating, and sharing this podcast and subscribing to my free Substack newsletter. And leave a comment or review. I'd love to hear from you. Bye.